if you are in a place where it is safe and comfortable for you to do so, please close your eyes and begin to take some slow, long, deep, relaxing breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. With every inhale, feel more light and peace entering the body and the mind. With every exhale, feel like you're allowing yourself to let go of all tension, along with anything you do not want. Inhaling peace and light, exhaling as you drop away all tension. We picture ourselves on top of a beautiful mountain, in the center of a circular grove of trees. Inside of our circle, a magical bonfire blazes forth, and the light of this bonfire lights us and the grove up with a sacred golden light. We recognize that this is the light of perfect love and perfect trust, and it gently and easily burns away everything that's not like itself, leaving us safe and serene. Into this sacred space, we invoke the presence of our Creator. To many of us, our Creator reveals themselves to be a god and goddess, a mother and father. We also invite the presence of our angels, our teachers, our guides. We dedicate the time that we spend together to one another and to them, and we ask that we be guided and led as we walk upon the way, becoming happier, more peaceful, and more loving people. Thank you very much, and please join me if you'd like to in saying the words, "Blessed be." I have a few questions. First, I wanted to ask, when people do black magic on us, harming us, then which plane do they use, which affects our physical plane? Okay, there's no special plane for negative attack magic. The etheric plane is the causative plane to the physical plane, the way that we're looking at it in this course. So anybody that's on the etheric plane creating thought forms and astral cords are, whether they're doing it intentionally or not intentionally, are creating change on the physical plane. So if you're trying to do attack magic or harmful magic, you, just like everybody else, would be working on the etheric plane, because that's the plane of cause. So attack magic is a whole different lecture. I'm not going to go into the ethics of magic in this course, but just suffice it to say that if somebody's doing that, they're doing it on the etheric plane, just like somebody who's working constructive magic. We had another question here. Can we astral project through a lucid dream? If so, do you have any advice or tips on how to do this? We'll start with that lecture next lesson. Next week, we're going to be working with dreams and lucid dreaming. So yeah, we will cover that. And then I had a question on the meditation. We visualize a globe of white light above our crown chakra. Then you visualize it showering light into all 7 chakras. Then you said feel the white light moving up, starting at the base chakra and moving up to each of the other chakras. So that was confusing to them. The way that I'm gearing the visualization in that meditation, and I apologize if it wasn't clear, is after you go through each energy center in turn, then you see a white light above your head, and then all of that light above your head showers down, and then you're going to take that white light and bring it up through each center in turn, back up through your whole system, and see it shooting up out through the top of your head, showering down about you. I'm sorry if that wasn't clear, but that's what you do. So I hope everybody was able to work with that meditation and read through the materials from the last lesson. We talked about the different planes of the astral. The main big division is the division between the invisible and the visible, or the physical and the non-physical. After you get into the non-physical realm, starting with the etheric, each plane becomes finer and lighter and brighter, going deeper and deeper within us. And the divisions become less obvious. So a lot of times different people that describe the astral planes will come up with different levels and names for them. Some of them have different numbers of levels. Some of them don't have levels at all. And that's because it's very difficult to discern differentiation between the levels on the astral as it is to differentiate between the physical and the non-physical. We're mostly concerning ourselves with the etheric plane in this course, but you will very naturally over time start to move up the planes. And also other courses will come where we do more exercises arising on the planes, but that's not so much what we're talking about here. We're just mostly working in this course with getting ourselves used to the idea that we can move out of the physical plane with our consciousness and into the etheric plane and start to get some mastery over that. The technique we're going to learn today is called Etheric Flying, learning to fly through the etheric realm. Part of what's going to get activated is what a lot of people call the third eye. And the third eye is not a physical body part like your physical eyes, but it's your ability to imagine. It's your own imaginative facility. And a lot of people don't realize that your ability to have an imagination, your own creativity and your own imagination, is both an active and a receptive quality. A lot of people talk about the third eye as an etheric organ of sight where you can see things and receive information, but it's through using your own imaginative faculties that you're able to receive that information. Many times when you're working with an angel or a guide or a spirit guide, something like that, it seems to people at first like they're making it up, like they're just making stuff up. And in a way you are, but you are receiving, because the third eye works in both the active and the receptive realms simultaneously. The third eye is your imaginative faculty, and it can also be something that is receptive as well as active. Your imagination is very crucial when you're doing all kinds of magic and all kinds of occultism, including astral projection. So it's essential for us to recognize that your imagination is the connective tissue, if you will, between the physical and the non-physical. By strengthening your imagination, by using it regularly, you are going to have so much more success in your astral travel as well as every other kind of magical work that you're doing. A lot of people talk about how the third eye is associated with the pineal gland, and it may be true, but the third eye is non-physical. So even though it may have that sort of physical counterpart in the brain, we're not so worried about doing physical things with your brain to stimulate the third eye. What we want to do is use your imagination like a muscle, and you want to work it. You want to engage your imagination. There's all kinds of ways to engage your imagination. You can visualize, you can read stories, you can listen to stories, you can do things like memorization. Just like any muscle in the physical world, it's strengthened by using it, and we're going to use it a lot. The etheric plane is where all of the astral phenomena occur. That's where your psychic abilities come into play, such as clairvoyance and reading auras, remote viewing, telekinesis, and also the things that are not necessarily part of your ability, but are still phenomena, such as hauntings, incubi, succubi, poltergeist activity. All of that is happening through the etheric plane. And oftentimes, just like any other phenomena on the etheric planes, it will come through and have manifestation on the physical. It's just normal. So a lot of times people get really scared by phenomena, and they don't realize that it's just a natural part of living. We have things that are coming through the etheric plane into the physical. And that's why sometimes when you have poltergeist type activity and things like that, it's not so abnormal as people think it is. It's just that we're, as a species, very good at rationalizing things. When we're working on etheric flying, we have to build a foundation. We have to take time and effort to build a foundation. We can't just expect ourselves to fly. It takes time. It's a skill that must be built. And this particular technique is one that I was taught. There's many techniques for astral projection. And I'm not saying that this technique is better. It's just the one that worked really well for me. And it's always worked for anybody that has really put it to the test. It just works. It's more than just something fun. It is fun to go flying. It is a lot of fun. But it's more than just recreation. The reason why we learn astral projection is so that we can develop ourselves spiritually, so that we can start to explore planes that are outside of the physical, that are the cause of the physical. And working with the etheric makes so much more sense than starting with one of the higher astral planes, because as you get higher and higher in the astral, forms disappear and things just become forces. Things just become energies, and the forms give way to just perceptions of color and things like that. And it's a lot more challenging to feel at home in that world since we're not used to consciously living in that world. So the etheric plane is a great place to start because it gives us a point of reference that we understand, since it's usually, at least on the lower parts of the etheric, a duplicate of what we see on the physical. And actually that's backwards. The physical is the duplicate of the etheric. Now there's a lot going on in the etheric that hasn't manifested. And so on the etheric plane, even though it looks very similar or sometimes just exactly like the physical, there will be a lot of things that are very different. And that's normal. That's normal. And you're going to notice the physical world isn't necessarily just a pure photocopy of the etheric. What comes into being and stays into being in the physical is held in place by very strong, what I call astral cords. But there's a lot of things on the etheric that aren't held in place by strong astral cords that you will as well encounter as you start working on it. So just be aware, it looks similar, but it's not identical because it's not the physical world. It's the etheric world. Mastering the art of etheric flying is gradual. It requires patience and persistence. If I was giving you a course in bodybuilding, you would start working on the exercises, learn the theory, and build your foundation, but it would happen over time that you would get the results. You wouldn't expect, okay, I took this course, where's my muscles? So it's the same thing with etheric flying. It takes time, but you will get those results if you do the work. Each time you go out on the etheric, you're going to get better and better and better at it. So here is what you do. You start the preparation by creating a route in your home. And I like to recommend that you start the route that you're going to travel in your home on the etheric at your bed. And then you're going to decide where you're going. Maybe it'll be from your bed all the way down to your basement. Or maybe if you don't have a big giant house, maybe you'll do your bed and it'll go into the living room, and then it might go into the kitchen, then it might go into the bathroom, and then it might wind up at the front door. It doesn't matter. You can have any route that you want starting at your bed. Your starting point and your destination point are the two main stations that you're going to establish in this route. But then you're going to have 4 other stations on the route that you're going to establish. Now, these can be things that are already there, or these can be things that you set up for yourself. But you want at each station on your route there to be some kind of physical object that you can get somewhat emotional about. It can be a piece of art or a picture or a photograph. It can be a crystal. It can be literally anything you want it to be. But I'm not going to get as emotionally invested in the thermostat as I'm going to get as that picture of my mom. So you want to have 6 complete stations. Your first station is where you're starting, and then the end of your route is your 6th station, but then you want 4 stations in the middle, and you're going to have to decide what those are, and you want to take time doing that. And so if there isn't something already in your home at those places, then you're going to want to place something there. You can place anything you want, anything that's going to be somewhat interesting to you, give you at least a bit of an emotional connection. It's a preparational experience that's going to make or break your success for you. So really take time. I would say take a week or take several days to at least once a day, if not more than once a day, walk the same route that you're going to be flying later. And you're going to go from station to station on your route that you've already established. And you're going to stop at each station and just look at this object, this thing that's what I call an object link, that you can really study it and just get to know whatever that is. And just so that you can just see it in your mind's eye. You can see it from memory, or you can sense it from memory if you don't think that you have a good imaging faculty. Whatever you can do to memorize each one of those stations. So take your time, walk through your route and memorize each and every point on the way. You want to be mindful and slow when you walk this route. So you're doing the same thing in your body that you're going to be doing outside of your body later. You really want to commit this to memory. Don't just say, yeah, I know my house. No, act like this is brand new territory and just really notice each and every station that you've set up in your mind's eye. You can write it all out in your journal if you want to. For some people, writing is a way for them to really stimulate their imagination. Writing the journey out as so that you have a real great plan in mind. That's fine. However it works best for you. Just make sure that your journey is committed to memory and that you really know and understand each and every station along the way. And then just keep repeating it in your physical body over and over again. What did we say happens when we repeat something over and over again? We start to establish astral cords. So if you establish the astral cords before you attempt your etheric journey, then it's a lot easier for you to find your way than if you just decided, well, I'm going to just wing it. Eventually, the time is going to come when you say, okay, now it's time. We're going to, what we used to call leaving our bodies. I don't know that it's really leaving your body because you already exist on the etheric plane while you're existing in your physical body. So it really makes sense to me that what you're doing is shifting your awareness to another plane. But if it feels to you like you're leaving your body, that's normal. It feels that way for most of us. So when you've decided it's time, you're going to lie on your bed, relax your body, relax your mind. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, but just take a big deep breath and visualize yourself in your mind's eye, whatever that means. I know a lot of people say, I can't visualize. Fine. Well, whatever that means to you when you're imagining something, each and every part of the journey that you have been taking in the physical. And take your time. Now, everybody's going to be different. Some of us snap right back into our bodies the second we worry about it. We think, oh, am I out? No, I'm in. And that's normal. That happens to a lot of us. Just get back out again. You can do it. But if you notice that you pop back into your body, start from the beginning of your journey again. Start right at the beginning and go back through the route again. And keep going and keep going and keep going until you get through each of those stations to your destination. Now, if you don't feel like you're successful the first time, who cares? No big deal. This is a new skill. Then go back and walk the route again, memorizing again, and then try it again. And you don't have to try it again all on the same day. You can do it the next day. There's no rush. You can take 6 months for all I care to get through this route. Or you can, maybe some of you will be doing it in a day. It doesn't matter. There's no rush and there's no contest. Eventually, you're going to get to the point where you're able to, in your mind's eye, go through that predetermined route that you have established those astral cords on in a way that you get to each and every station, noticing each and every detail until you get to your destination. Once that's happened, the next thing for you to do is travel that same route backwards until you get to where you are on the bed. And that may take a while. But you do your best and you just keep going with it. Now, some people find this kind of thing really boring, and some people find it fascinating. I found it boring when I was first doing it, but I'm so glad I went through it, because if I hadn't gone through this, back then it was just an assignment, but I'm so glad I did, because it gave me the skills that I needed later when I wanted to do other kinds of things on the astral. Now, once you get good at that one route, try a different route. Once you get good at doing it in your home, try a route where you're walking on the sidewalk outside in your own little town or your own little neighborhood where you're establishing stations. And you still use those 6 stations. So you're going to start at your bed. You might go through a little bit of a route in your home, and then you'll go out on the street maybe. And then maybe if you get into your car, you can go to a place that's a little bit farther. You're going to play around with this. But for a while, don't try to just be out on the etheric without establishing chords, without establishing a specific route, a very clear-cut specific route that you've memorized in your mind, so that when you're on the etheric, that you are anchored to a route that you've predetermined. Some people will never go beyond a predetermined route. Some people will never be very adept at being on the etheric plane unless they do the route first. That's fine. That's fine. But most of us eventually don't need that. Most of us eventually won't need that. But try not to run before you walk. Try to get this down first. Do at least 3 or maybe 4 different journeys, both in your home, in your neighborhood, and then maybe a little bit farther out from your neighborhood, where you've gotten a predetermined route, where you've really established those astral chords first and then flown on the astral. Now, eventually what's going to happen, you're going to notice things on the etheric plane where, like, the etheric double of a building will be there. And you normally might want to go and open the door or open the window to get in. And it might take you a minute to realize, I don't need to do that. I can just walk through the walls because this is etheric. There's no solid matter there. There's nothing keeping me out of that place. Some of you will start to try to use your limbs to walk and things like that. And you'll be able to start to train yourself. I don't need that. I don't need to do anything except for will myself from one place to the next, to the next, to the next. And eventually you're going to recognize that you don't need to stay in the etheric plane, that you can move beyond the realms of the etheric into more formless levels of the astral. And that'll come later. Stick with the etheric for the time being. Especially, this is very helpful for those of you who are working magic, because you start to recognize as you get more mastery over the etheric plane that as far as your own astral substance, you can start altering that etheric plane a little bit more directly to make changes in your life. And then we'll talk a little bit more about that in subsequent lessons. But right now, what you want to do is get out on the etheric plane. Use your preparation. Really prepare yourself for success. Don't think that there's any rush. When I was having trouble feeling like I was out on the etheric, I would use other kinds of devices. I would use the orb of light. I would put myself in that bubble of light, and that would be a vehicle for me. So those of you who have worked on the Witch's Primer course, that orb of light is a wonderful astral vehicle or etheric vehicle. I put a broom on the floor at one point when I was especially very young doing this, and I just lied down on the floor, straddling the broom, sort of just lying on the floor, and had that as the starting point for my etheric flying. That sort of stimulated some witchy powers within me to feel like, okay, now I'm flying on a broomstick. And that made it more real to me. It made it more fun. And so that helped me. So having a vehicle for me was something that was very helpful. Since we use vehicles in our physical world, the idea of a vehicle on the etheric was helpful to me. That may be helpful to you, but it may not. You may need something like that and you may not. But recognize that this is your journey, and you can come up with all kinds of imaginative ways to get through these different stations on your etheric journey. Eventually, like I said, most of you won't need that. Most of you won't need to have a predetermined route anymore. And you can just will yourself to be in Paris. You can will yourself to be wherever you want. take that journey in the physical over and over and over and over again to establish those astral cords so that when you do decide to get out on the etheric, your journey is going to be a lot more successful. And again, when you do it the first time, don't worry if it's successful or not. Just keep practicing until you're able to make that journey all through those 6 stations and then back in a reverse order, getting back into your physical body. Once you've done that, then try a different route, and then try a route outside your home. Once you've done at least 4 to 6 pre-established routes where you have very strong astral cords, then you're probably ready to try venturing onto the etheric plane without a predetermined route. And we'll talk a little bit more about that next week. Thank you so much for being here today. Until next time, blessed be.